Okay, this is lesson 5.2, comparing rational and irrational numbers. Our learning target, we're going to compare and order rational and irrational numbers. We have already compared and ordered rational numbers. We learned yesterday what irrational numbers are, so today we're going to compare both rational and irrational numbers. Okay, can you remember the ordering steps we use to compare rational numbers? We created a flow map in class, and you guys recalled those 4 steps. So we're going to use those exact same steps when we're comparing rational and irrational numbers. So again, step 1, turn all numbers to decimals. Step 2, line up the decimals vertically. Step 3, compare place value. And 4, list in correct order in original form. So a few things that I noticed when we did our flow maps the other day. Make sure that you put the numbers back in the original form and in the correct order. So if it says least to greatest, least to greatest, greatest to least, greatest to least, ascending, descending, increasing, decreasing, just make sure you pay attention to those instructions. Okay, so you've got your 4 steps. So let's go ahead and try it. We're going to order from greatest to least. So we have the square root of 16, the square root of 14, the square root of 4.1, and 3 6/10. Okay guys, so back to our steps. I'm going to number them here. Step 1, we want to turn everything into a decimal. Okay? So, square root of 16. What is the square root of 16? 4 times 4 is 16, so it's 4. And I can put 4.0. The square root of 14, so you would get your calculator, square root of 14, and it's going to give you 3.741, and that number is going to keep going. So I'm going to put a ... It's an irrational number, all right? So I just want to make sure I write down enough numbers so that I can use those place value numbers to compare them. Next, we have the square root of 4.1, and again, we'll use our calculator, and you get 2.024, and again, this number continues. Okay? And then we have 3.6. Well, that number is already a decimal, so I don't need to do anything. So that's step 1, put everything in decimals. Step 2, because I kind of set my paper up like this, step 2 is line up the decimals vertically. I've already done that. All right? And then step 3 is compare place value to order. So here's my decimals lined up. over here, the least number that I have is a 2. But am I comparing from least to greatest? No, I'm comparing from greatest to least. So my greatest number I have over here is a 4. So for step 3, what I like to do, I put a 1 by the side the number I'm going to list first. So in this case, the greatest number. Then, which number's next? So I have a 3 here and a 3 here. So then I go over to my 10th place. I've got a 7 and a 6. So which one's greater? That's going to be the square root of 14 because the 7's bigger. Then my 6 is next, 3.6. And then last, I'm left with the 2.024, and it continues. Okay, so step 3, I'm comparing place value and I'm ordering, but I have to remember to order correctly. So follow the instructions. Then step 4, I'm going to write down here. We're going to order our numbers from greatest to least in their original form. So here's my 1. My original was square root 16. Here's my 2, square root 14. My 3 was 3.6. And last, square root of 4.1. So this would be the final answer that I boxed. I went through my 4 steps, I showed my work, and I made sure to pay attention to my instructions. The last thing I want to do with you guys, just as a review, the square root of 16, is it rational or irrational? You should have said rational, because the square root of 16 is 4. The square root of 14, is it rational or irrational? Irrational. Square root of 4.1, irrational. Both of these numbers keep going without repeating. And 3.6 is a decimal that terminates. So what does that mean? Rational. Okay, good job. All right, let's do one more example. This time we're going to order from least to greatest. And you're going to order pi, square root 6, 3 4/10, and the square root of 14. So, step 1, let's turn our numbers into decimals. Pi is 3.1415, and it keeps going. The square root of 6, and I always like to just start out lining up all my numbers vertically. That way I know that I'm on the right track. Square root of 6, again, you're using your calculator, 2.449, and it continues. 3.4 is already in decimal form. Square root of 14, 3.741. And that number continues. So step 2, order my numbers or align my numbers so that they're vertically and the decimal is in line. This looks like I lost a decimal here. There we go. Okay, step 3, compare place value. This time I'm ordering from least to greatest. So my least number here in the ones place is 2, so I'm going to order that one first. Then I have 3 3s, so I'll look at my tenths place. 1, 4, and 7. Well, 1 is least, so pi is going to come next. Then I have 4 and 7. 4 is less than 7, so this one will be third, and square root of 14 will be last. Fourth step, go for it. Order my numbers back in the original form. So 1 is the square root of 6. 2 is pi. 3, 3.4, and 4, square root 14. And this is the answer that will box. Make sure you're showing all your work and your handwriting is very neat so that we can go ahead and make sure that we're checking the correct work. Just to finish out before we end the lesson here, pi, rational or irrational? Irrational. Square root of 6. Irrational. 3.4 terminates, so it's rational. Square root of 14, irrational. Okay? And I'm going to leave you with the assignment that we're going to do tomorrow. So if you want to get a head start, you can. If not, this is what we're going to work on in class tomorrow. Don't forget to write down any questions about the lesson if you have them, and we will go over them in class tomorrow.